All right, so let's break into this. This is an incredibly controversial movie. It was actually taken down. This is, I believe, in 2020, it was taken down from YouTube because it was so controversial. And there are other reasons that we can discuss. But I wanted to get some really intelligent thinkers together and kind of review this movie and talk about it from multiple perspectives. So here, why don't I do this? Why don't I share the teaser trailer in case you're not familiar with the movie, and then we're gonna kind of discuss it.
The solutions are out there.
There's no turning back.
Dun dun dun.
I don't think the people in charge are near nervous enough.
Okay, so
not a very good trailer. It wasn't very informative.
Not a very good trailer. Yeah, not very informative at all.
It didn't make me want to watch the film, but you should watch it.
Well, I mean, let's talk about it. So Aaron says, no, you shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't. All right.
So Aaron, well, let's give Aaron the floor because Aaron and I have been chatting back and forth all day, and he was a little frustrated. He actually had to turn the movie off about halfway through because he was so pissed off. Aaron, tell us why. Well, first of all, why you because you did go back and watch the second half, I believe. Tell us why you were so pissed off and why you turned it off.
So at one point, he starts talking about the plants that we have built in the desert, and this is after going on for a good 20 minutes.
The solar arrays that were built in the desert.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And he incorrectly states that the solar panels use more carbon in their creation and usage than if you had just burned the gasoline directly. And that's a false statement. That's not true. So that kind of set me off. And then he starts talking about the fact that we're building in the desert and there's all this life in the desert that we're destroying. And yes, there is some life in the desert, but for the most part, the desert is a dead, arid place. And if we're going to build something, that's actually a pretty good place to be building things. So he's going for a zero footprint humanity. That's kind of what he has set up. And I don't agree with that. I don't see any reason that we need to be zero footprint. I think we need to be smart about our footprint. But there's no reason that we can't leave anything behind or use any of the resources of the planet as long as we're intelligent about it. So that was the point where I had turned the movie off because I couldn't deal with the falsehoods and the cynicism essentially of the only solution is to reduce our population drastically. And so that the movie starts getting into
which
that.
Is like, wait a second, what are we asking for here?
Well, yeah, I'm getting there. Trust me on that. So the movie starts that's right after the solar stuff. He turns on the population control, and to me, that's a trigger for racism. I know Michael, I think, has some counter arguments to that, but that's all about keeping the brown people from reproducing. Is what that argument boils down to, which is completely stupid, ridiculous, bigoted, and has no place anywhere here. And let's come back to the population control while I finish out the rest of the movie. He then goes on to discuss about a little bit about mining and what that does to the earth, and agreed that that's again, we shouldn't have zero footprint. We should have an intelligent footprint. And then lastly, he gets into biomass. Now that was an area that actually has some merit to it, where you're burning trees in order to create electricity, which is theoretically renewable, but not on the time scales that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. You burn a tree once and then it takes 40 years to grow it back. So that's not realistic in terms of the amount of energy that we need to produce. He doesn't mention nuclear at all.
Which I was shocked by. I was shocked by that.
Yeah. And
What do you got, Lou?
so
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Aaron.
But let me just finish up.
Yeah.
Just the extreme pessimism of the only solution is to drastically destroy our population, way of life. It really turned me off, and I have very little interest in engaging with him anymore. After having a viewpoint like that, that's not forward thinking in the slightest.
I totally missed. Will you rewind and tell me which was the racist part? Because I was trying to figure that out.
That was the drastic population reduction, right? So most of the population explosion is in the third world. Most of the developed countries have limited themselves to 1 or 2 children per child. But in the third world, that kind of limit doesn't really exist or even is thought about. And so when people talk about population control, what they're really saying is that there are these countries where people are breeding uncontrollably. Interestingly, all of these countries seem to have non-white people in them.
Well, I'm always concerned that they suffer so many more deaths in those countries. Like they might be having children, but they go through horrific situations and they lose a lot of children.
Right, but the way to deal with that education, right, is not saying you must limit your population growth. It's teaching them the benefits of not having too many children. And again, as the developed countries have come along, we have learned that lesson. So it's just a matter of teaching them that as well.
Yeah, and I would even argue, Aaron, that this is a natural, having less children is a natural byproduct of developing nations. It's not as if we need to be the white savior, right, and go in and teach these people to educate them not to have so many children. The reason they're having so many children is because of the environment in which they're living in poverty. It's not something that is really controllable with education. It's controllable with technological development. And I think that and this is my argument with the film, is that the entire argument is we need to stop our way of life. We need to stop technological development when technological development is the thing that limits population growth. Am I wrong here?
Right, and not only that, though, they're talking about drastic population growth. He wouldn't give you a number in the movie, but I've heard these people talk before. They're looking around 100 million people on the planet. Can you imagine that?
Wait, who? What? Really... What? 100 million people? I didn't hear that in the movie.
No, that wasn't
they
in
won't
the
tell
movie.
you that. They won't tell you that. That's the hardcore agenda, is to get us down to 100 million people.
But don't you think that's like crazy, like conspiracy theorists? I didn't get the I didn't get the sense that the people filming this documentary were those people.
I think Michael Moore might be one of those people, but
I
don't know.
You think Michael Moore talks all the time about supporting brown people in developing nations? I don't think he's one of these guys who wants to.
Maybe not.
I'm super naive. My mind doesn't go there at all. I just want white people to have fewer children.
That's an interesting standpoint from
says the Dayglow. Says the Dayglow lady.
I wasn't the only person who noticed that everybody in the movie was white. Also, there was an article that you linked me to earlier, Michael.
Well, yes, and I read that. But he said he worded it in some way about all of the experts or all of the rich white guys in the film, and I'm like, but it was talking about all these rich white guys. Like, you can't just throw a different person with a different occupation in there because they're a different color.
Well, and that was another point, is that they were taking aim at the billionaire class. And so that was one of your arguments, Aaron, is if you don't have green investors, then you don't have anybody pushing forward this agenda in the capitalistic society. But the argument is that the endless consumption of capitalism and consumerism is the real threat here. And, population is a byproduct of that, but it's really about our way of life. And I think there was some nuance there that I think maybe like, I think you were struck by this idea of, well, this is about population control. And to your point, that was something that they were very much talked about. We have a consuming, capitalist driven, powerhouse of a way of life. And that is what's destroying us. Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was really cynical documentary that I felt that the last third I wish was the entire documentary, because I think there's at least some pertinent points there, because I thought the first 2/3 were so much of either basically the filmmaker just really letting perfection get in the way of progress, where of course in a perfect world, absolutely, solar panels would have incredible efficiency, and we wouldn't need to fill it up with other fossil fuels or other energy grids. But that's not, you don't just magically have a different entire sector of manufacturing and energy overnight. It's a very slow process. And because you don't like the way it is now, doesn't mean you just get rid of it. Because then what? Then you're back to the way it was before, which you really weren't okay with. So I think the criticisms would have been more valid if they were true, but a lot of them weren't even true. The criticism about solar energy now, I think I looked at it quickly because once I found out this is controversial, I kind of read a few other things about it. The efficiency of solar panels is very different now. It does not take more fossil fuels to create a solar panel than it does that the solar panel will create. That's just not accurate. And the efficiency will just keep increasing. The electric car criticism of how it doesn't actually lower emissions because of how they charge it isn't true either. So there were just a lot of criticisms that maybe 4 years ago, maybe some of them were true, but this is a sector that's growing so fast and changing so fast that a majority of the documentary's criticisms felt like this isn't even really accurate.
Right. I mean, there's a big problem with that because a lot of the data that they were sharing is 8, 10, 12 years old, right. And we are seeing efficiency improvements. Now, there are valid criticisms about efficiency when it comes to solar panels, and they're especially well, and also you mentioned the cars, right? I think that's an important one there too, because we think about getting an electric car and how that's going to do such an extraordinary job of helping reduce carbon emissions, but simultaneously you're still burning coal or natural gas or something else to get that electricity to that car. Now, what they didn't mention was the efficiency of these cars. If you think of like a lawnmower, right? An internal combustion engine lawnmower, hugely pollutant, right? Now, you can use an electric lawnmower and plug it in. Now, you're still burning fossil fuels to get that energy, but it's more efficient. And I don't think they talked about that at all in the doc.
Right. Whoa. And I think it's good that I think the doc did a good job reminding you that, things are not black and white and this isn't perfect. And just because something is green or renewable doesn't automatically make it good for the environment, and that you have the entire, the mechanisms of capitalism definitely trying to take advantage.
Just and like regulation low calorie doesn't mean actually low calorie. Yeah, right? Exactly.
Fat-free doesn't mean it's healthy, right? So regulations are slow to catch up, and I think there's a lot of abuse of that system, and that's, to me, what was interesting about it. I wish they went more into it. But yeah, sorry, I think I interrupted somebody.
No.
I think just let me add on that cynicism. You kind of mentioned it there, Daniel, was the all or nothing thinking, right? They had this. We couldn't use the stopgap measures of fossil fuels in the meantime while we develop the technologies like solid state batteries, which are predicted to resolve a lot of the issues that they brought up in this movie. It's as if they expect that we will make zero progress on anything that we have.
Yeah, we talked about this the other day. I was listening to Freakonomics Radio, and they were talking about this idea of the prophet versus the wizard. In this climate change debate, the prophet is the one who says, stop, like you're destroying the planet, you're destroying yourselves, you are going to obliterate yourself. And this movie was very much along the lines of the prophet, whereas the wizard thinks, okay, we're gonna innovate, we're gonna use technology to get ourselves out of this, we're gonna continue to improve efficiencies, we're gonna continue to develop the technology that's gonna allow us to reduce our footprint while not giving up our way of life. Did anybody's mind change here after watching this film, or was did you land where you were before after watching the film, or did you get anything out of it?
I just felt like I needed to take a shower after watching this film. That's what I felt like. Dude, it just pisses me off because the solution's there and it's nuclear screaming in our face. It's such a great solution, and there's such a stigma to it. And I hate when people in the UFO community bring up this, well, it could free up our energy crisis. It could change the world overnight. And I'm looking at nuclear, and I'm like, we already have it. We're ignoring it. So why would we take this anti-gravitic technology and all of a sudden apply it to all of our lives like it would happen tomorrow. It's such bullshit. Like,
if you think nuclear energy is dangerous, just imagine how dangerous element 115 energy would be.
Exactly. You know, but like it doesn't make any sense, dude. Like if the reason why it's this whole green movement and this is what I kind of took from the film, is that in a lot of ways it's a lateral movement. Yes, in 15, 20, 30 years, those things are going to get better and maybe they help the environment. But this film is pointing out we're not going to make it 20, 30, 40 years like this, you know. But look at the environment around us today. It's a nightmare.
Well, and we seem so unwilling to make those small changes. Like lawns, for example. We don't need better lawnmowers. We need to stop fucking growing useless grass.
Yes. Yes. No,
that's a great point.
Absolutely 100% right. And also you've got things like, you know, oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico that are burning, okay, because the pipes are so deep that they can't get to them for weeks because it's high pressure, you know, oil pipes underwater. Like, why are we doing this? How is nobody going to prison after a natural disaster like that?
Right. Yeah, it's so frustrating.
It's the money. It's the money.
Government has been hamstrung, right? We can't have a regulatory government, one that is strong. The business sector won't allow it. They won't allow any interference. But what they really should be doing is we should be requiring that a company pay its entire footprint. If you put up a building for 500 workers, then you need to build housing for 500 people, expand the roads for 500 more people, add parks for 500 people, and then pay for the carbon footprint of the steel you use to put the building up.
But also, your business shouldn't pollute the water or poison the air.
Right. And
like,
that was what I was.
Really simple things.
Right.
Yeah. Like I was reading today in Blumenthal's article about this movie. And he was talking about, I think it's the Empress of the Seas, Royal Caribbean, one of their larger ships. He said the last time it did a transatlantic, it used as much fuel as 5 million automobiles would have used making the same trip. Like, it's a monster.
I love cruising, so I'm not going to comment.
Well, it is interesting because I think the film was trying to make the point that nobody wants to give up their way of life, and we're just going to innovate our way out of it. And I think that it's much more complicated than that. And I don't think, like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the episode of Adam Ruins Everything about climate change, but one of the things he really points out is you can feel great about getting your electric car. You can feel great about putting the, solar panels on your roof. I have solar panels on my roof, right? Like, you can feel great about those things. You can feel great about recycling, but it's a drop in the bucket because corporations are getting away with the extraordinary amount of pollution they're doing. They're getting away with, Coca-Cola could easily create a reusable bottle that you brought back, right? But
I told Michael, where is the ban on non-biodegradable plastics, right? Why isn't that a law?
Right, and what we're putting in our recycling bin isn't even getting recycled, from what I understand.
Right.
Sure.
Even China won't take
it.
Yeah.
We have the capability to create non-biodegradable plastic. Everything should be using that.
Yeah, I don't understand that. It's also like this idea. Can I just full disclosure? I hate recycling because I know it's not going to the right places. And I also don't understand, like, it's 2021. Why can we not put our garbage into one thing and wherever it goes, it gets sorted? Like, how is that not a thing? No, I get that, but it's done by humans at both facilities. I'm saying, like, and don't tell me there's not AI that can pick these things out yet. Like, and implement these things. I just
there's some money at it. Yeah,
boggles my brain.
Sort your garbage for you.
Thank you so much, Jack Hatfield. How about them dings? We're gonna figure out these dings eventually. I don't know what's going on, man.
Good. It was happening while I was gone.
It was happening. It was happening while you were gone. Ben says, "Keep up the solid work at Singularity, Mike. Support the team." Thank you so much, Ben. We really appreciate your support, brother.
I thought it was David at first.
You thought it was David?
Yeah,
the dings.
the dings. No, but when he left, it still
It's still
happened.
dinging.
Right,
So
right. Which
I turned off my notification. I don't know what's
Maybe
going on,
it's
bro.
just the ghost of the show.
It's our alien fact checkers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wrong.
They're communicating.
Everything we say, incorrect.
But it's like, yeah, dude. I mean, look, there's like they just passed this. What was it? A $1.5 trillion infrastructure bill. What's going into this infrastructure? Are we rebuilding the roads with the same shit we've been using since the 40s? Are we rebuilding our bridges with that stuff too? Like,
I don't know, man. Who has the time to keep up? Like I don't know what's
We
in the
need
bill.
Secretary Pete. Can you get arranged for Secretary Pete to come on the show?
I think we should. We'll get Secretary. Actually, Jamarl Thomas would be someone perfect to come on and talk to us about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, who mentioned Ecuador? You had that up a minute ago.
Ecuador?
Yeah, something about Ecuador.
I missed it. Oh, it was an Ecuador. Me and Lou are fighting over it. It was in Ecuador, and when they took them to court, Chevron won. They literally turned a river black with sludge in another country, and nothing happened. I think it was also interesting at the beginning of this film too. They were showing like in the 60s how like the Mississippi River was on fire because we were just dumping oil into it, and like
Flint River caught on fire
Flint
for
River,
sure.
yeah, and so like we have to make the claim that we haven't turned some things around. Like we used to just throw cars in rivers, like we just dumped everything in rivers, right, in America, and that doesn't happen anymore because of policy and legislation and because of people pushing conservation. But there is one thing that I thought there's two things that I thought the doc actually pointed out that were relevant. One was the material mining required for things like solar panels, cell phones, these sorts of things, like specifically solar panels, like you need cobalt, you need lithium, and and a lot of these things are coming out of the Congo, and a lot of the people who are doing the hard work are, God bless.
Okay, you know what? That was my test. It's you.
How? Did you mute everyone?
Yeah.
What is going on? Where is that coming from?
I don't know where it's coming from, but it's you.
Oh my Lord.
Anyway, where Mike was going is that they're children. It is children who are doing a great majority of the cobalt mining. And they were sued a couple years ago. Apple, several other companies that are using a lot of the cobalt were sued.
And implicated in that. For sure. And like, I have solar panels. My house is filled with Apple electronics. I am implicated in slave labor. Like
I'm them for 15 years.
Oh yeah.
Go on. Tell us more.
I did software though. I didn't do hardware.
Red Wing, thank you so much for the donation. $49.99. It means the world to us. Great show. We really appreciate your support. Here at the Singularity Lab, it is folks like you keep this show on the road.
They had a red-winged blackbird was their picture.
Yeah. Sweet. I don't even know what that is.
It just matches the name.
Obviously.
That's a bird fan.
Oh man.
But Lou, like you're saying, that's why I think like you had to feel like you had to shower, because it kind of makes you feel like no matter what you do, there's no good answer, and it seems like every direction you go in, there is something terrible happening along the production line.
I always find it fascinating, and I know it's because it's rule of law, but if this was the 1400s and somebody was polluting the rivers and the air at the same level and it was killing people and they found out about it, that person would be hunted and they would be put in the middle of a square and killed. Like
torches and pitchforks would be out there.
Yeah, I mean, they would be dead. And I know this sounds crazy and authoritarian, but like when the CEO of Mobil or Chevron or any of these, even like Citibank, where they rip people off and they destroy old people's, retirement funds to make an extra buck so they could buy a yacht.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got
A super yacht, a second super yacht.
almost zero
Right.
empathy for you. Zero. And I think you should be prosecuted
What-
to a different kind of law.
Why do we have an entire sector?
But Red
of
Wing
business?
makes a great point. Don't forget, corporations are people, so they can go to hell when they die.
I love that.
That's a
That
good
makes
point.
me
They'll be
happy.
judged by St. Peter. Just
Yeah, I just
That's the one plus sign to Citizens United right there.
well, I think
Yes.
of Richard Branson,
But-
right? In this documentary, I know this guy made money hand over fist in this movement. That there's no doubt about it. And now here he is, and he's like, "Oh, I'm Richard Branson. Now I'm going to Spice," and it's like, dude, we paid for that shit. Like we paid for this jerk to get into an oversized spacesuit, shoot himself up into space because he wanted to be the first billionaire to do it. Like all of the things those two monkeys could have done with their money to help their own employees, let alone people that don't work for them, or it's just
So the documentary definitely took aim at the billionaire class, and I think the only argument here, and this was Aaron, you mentioned this as well, and now my dogs are barking. Good Lord, this show today! I'm just.
Is that a new phone notification? What's that? Voicemails, or
You
is
just
that,
changed the beat.
Yeah.
Oh.
What's happening? I mean, you
So-
know,
They're
there's
singing
so much
jingle
tech
bells.
in your
You-
house.
You couldn't hear that, but
So what are your thoughts on this, guys? Do you need billionaires to drive the green movement?
I don't think you need billionaires, but I think it needs to be a capitalistic system, and that will generate billionaires. The capitalistic system is what encourages people to invest in these technologies, and and create the jobs that are necessary to get this stuff done. And yes, you're going to get some billionaires on there, but that's kind of a taxation issue, right? We really need to address that from any sector of business, not necessarily just this particular sector. Bigelow made his money from budget inns. He sold hotel rooms, and there's people who make tons of money on being predators, right? We have an entire sector of business on payday loans,
Yeah.
which they exist only to prey on the poor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yet they're legal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they're legal.
And it's crazy. So, there are a lot of places that we can start with before we get to Richard Branson and to Jeff Bezos and those guys. Yes, they're kind of, there's only a couple of them, right? So thank
I
goodness.
think Branson's very on his way to having things said about him that will knock him down a few pegs.
You'd think that would have already happened, though. I mean, we're
gonna
well
get Me
into
Too.
we're like 4 years into Me Too,
These are
and
powerful
Branson.
people.
But I've heard from women who've said that he.
Yeah, I've heard some predatory things about Branson too. I don't know if they're true, but I
don't know if they're true either.
I have
In
heard
this
those
day
as
and
well.
age, if you start hearing those rumors about somebody, they're probably true. It's very speculative. of
money
me,
and power
but
seem
like
to attract that sort of person. I don't
it's so
understand
strange,
why.
dude. It's so weird. The richer you get, the more
The
deviant
creepier you
become.
are.
It's because they're never told no. They're like
Right.
giant toddlers.
That's a really good point.
It's true. It's true. And here's the thing with billionaires too, man. I agree with you a little bit, Aaron, that the capitalism will definitely be the way to do it. But the problem with capitalism today, because it's not regulated properly, not that we need over-regulation, because over-regulation is an issue too, but there just needs to be a one sheet, don't be an asshole corporation rule, like you can't do this, and this. And if this happens or this happens or this happens, you're done. Like you're done.
A code of
Let's
ethics.
start with paying a fair wage.
code of
right?
ethics,
I mean, we
right?
can begin there.
But this idea that these billionaires are all of a sudden going to stop their revenue stream, they haven't bled this oil rock dry yet. There's still more than enough to squeeze out of it to make a nice chunk of profit. And the bottom line is there's no new green energy that anybody's willing to take the risks on, that the United States government would give actual assistance to help develop, because the red tape to do it would be ridiculous. they're just not done. They're just not done wringing out this little wallet they've got, and they're not going to stop that revenue stream until there's no choice.
Well, I think
the problem with that is it might be too late before we get there.
Yeah, I mean, this is the interesting point that I think Aaron brought up earlier, right? Is this idea of the true cost of business, or the true P&L. And, in this country, we do a very poor job of really understanding what our gross domestic product is. I feel like, you think about the amount of men and women who stay home where their other partner works, and there is literally zero accounting for the amount of work that goes to manage a home and to raise a family and to educate the children. And these are completely ignored when it comes to our economic accounting of our civilization and our society. And I think the same thing happens, as Aaron was saying earlier, when it comes to the actual cost of running a business. Yes, we want people to have incentive to grow businesses, to create jobs, to innovate in technologies that are going to allow us to reduce our carbon footprint. But simultaneously, we have to ensure that they're paying the carbon taxes and these, what the true economic, or what the true climate cost is associated with these. And that's where we're really falling down. We're falling down on a policy level, and we're falling down when it comes to regulating corporations, and for them accounting for their true cost of business.
Well, I love the lady, the Indian lady that he was talking to in that rally for clean energy, and I'm trying to get her name. I see her right here. She was the best part about the whole film, and she was like, you know what? Let me just can we play it? Yeah. I'm gonna get the link if you want to continue the discussion. Sorry.
Okay.
But I thought she was just such a beautiful person, and she's telling you that these billionaires, they don't care. Like they've got zero interest in creating a product that actually enriches people's lives versus making a profit. And that's the problem with this green energy thing is it's not actually enriching human life. It's a profit making machine, and capitalism has absolutely taken over the narrative of this discussion.
So that seems like you need to find a way to determine a value proposition for these products that are created, right? If you're trying to raise $1 million, $1 billion, whatever, to create this new product, and the only reason for creating that product is to make money for you and your shareholders, then that shouldn't be viable, right? You need a way of determining the value of what you are creating and assigning that value, to the value of your company.
Yeah,
and I'm not really sure how to do that. Stock isn't really the way to do it necessarily.
Well, I think if you're making money off, say, like your company makes cars, right? Like you should be able to make money hand over fist if your car is the best car in the world. Like that should be your capitalistic right. But you know what I hate capitalism on? Health insurance. Everyone's gonna die. Everyone's gonna get sick. So why are we charging people through the nose for something that you're going to 100% use and need?
Yeah, that should
that's why
universal, right?
Right. And so that's I think at the core what the issue is that I think the ideas come from a good place, but as soon as capitalism says, "Oh, look, we can make a buck off of this," they sink their teeth into it, and then it gets the message gets lost.
Well, I think that's what the doc was trying to point out. And as many failures as the doc had, that's what it was trying to say is green is just a marketing tactic for a lot of these billionaires when they're not actually getting to root causes. And again, we can go back and forth and we can definitely look at a lot of this data was bad. It was old. It was outdated, right? And that's bad. You're releasing the data that's not even the right data. But there still is a problem with people profiting incredibly off of things that are green, but not really green.
Yeah, and if you are really interested in this subject, read The Gray Zone. It's a long essay that Max Blumenthal wrote about all of this, and it does make some comparisons to more of the newer solar panels, and the numbers do come up not as significantly better as you would hope that they are. He goes into how there's absolutely nothing you can do with a wind turbine when you're done with it. And like a lot of like the chain of people that are related to this whole thing, it's sort of mind blowing.
Right. Yeah.
But again,
And
we're assuming no progress.
Like Tesla's
Right.
new panels are like 8% efficient, which is not great. And a lot of the more efficient panels, 15, 16%, are way more expensive. And so, you know, we've got work to do, folks. But I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm not saying we can't be wizards and figure this out. But we can't just assume that the corporations who claim to be green have our best interests in mind.
Right. Well, what kills me is that there are kids who are the ones who are mining that shit to make your
huge problem.
Your solar panel, and yet we're still paying premium prices for the tech.
It's getting less expensive. I mean,
it's coming down. I mean, you see that especially with these new Apple computers. Like we discussed that a few months ago when the new stuff came out. We're like, damn, this is actually pretty reasonably priced. But then it's like, damn, but it also took 15 years to get to this reasonable price of getting charged through the absolute nose. But do you want to hear this?
Yeah, hit the clip.
Yeah, okay.
I liked this woman. We need to get her on the show.
Willing to reject biomass and
no,
biofuels.
she is smart.
So we are talking of the old oil economy trying to maintain itself now through another raw material, the green planet. The only reason corn and soya is being planted for biofuel in this country is the subsidies make it profitable. I think the big crisis of our times is our minds have been manipulated to give power to illusions. We shifted to measuring growth, not in terms of how life is enriched, but in terms of how life is destroyed.
That's like that. She's so right on there. Like that, you could not have said it any better. It's measured in how life is destroyed. And I think that's where you start. What does your company do? Does it enrich life or does it destroy it to create something? And if it destroys something that's in an unsustainable pattern, right? Like if it takes more, you have to destroy more to create this one little thing. It shouldn't be a viable business. It shouldn't be approved.
If you're going to subsidize something, why don't you subsidize something that actually has long-term? Has long-term. That's fine. Kidding. Has long-term viability. That isn't just what's most convenient for the companies that maybe have. I mean, this is what lobbying is, right? The subsidies aren't going to maybe the wisest choice or the choice that'll have the greatest outcome. It's about these companies have an obscene amount of money, and lobbying is a powerful force in Washington. So that's who's going to get those subsidies,
Right. Well, that's, I think, really the biggest issue is just money in politics is what's creating this monster.
Yeah.
That's the culprit, is this idea that corporations are people.
Right. Citizens United. I mean, that was
Citizens United.
That's a big problem. And then
us.
you've got the ACLU, who, based on their internal logic, supported Citizens United. Now, they do say that Citizens United should be repealed legislatively. We need to deal with it in the legislative branch. But when it comes to freedom to donate money, that's where they say corporations are like people. They have the freedom. They have the First Amendment right to speak freely with their capital. And that's really what Citizens United is about. And that's why the ACLU has not come out against it. But that being said, we need to fix that in legislation. And nobody wants to fix it in legislation. Nobody wants to fix the policy.
Because it's a faucet of cash.
It is.
It's a faucet of cash straight into our elected representatives' pockets. Again, like if you've got a representative in a county or district whose median income is $35,000 a year, and that representative's base income starting, okay, is in the range of $150,000 a year to take a 4-year public office job, how can he or she possibly represent that constituency?
Oh, it gets worse because they leave that public office job and they sign up for the company as a lobbyist for that company, and then they get paid $500,000 a year.
Right.
Super incestuous.
Right. And I mean, there's got to be a way to cut the loophole from politics to lobbying. That's also got to be another thing. Like,
and term limits,
be able to be a
unfortunately,
lobbyist.
actually
Term
make
limits.
the situation worse in some ways.
I've heard that argument as well.
You get a bunch of new people in the office all the time, and so the only people they can listen to are the lobbyists. They don't have the information. They don't know what they're doing. They're brand new, and so the only people feeding them data are the lobbyists.
That's such a great point. Like, everyone points to term limits as that's going to solve the issue, because you don't have people on in Washington who've been there forever and are dinosaurs and are not speaking for the people. But to your point, if you only have freshman Congress people, the lobbyists are going to eat them up for breakfast.
But could you designate that, like, you have to be out by the time you're 50? Like, you've got to be done. You have to resign.
Now
but why? Why would that?
Because it would keep the rotation with younger people.
Right.
I think it should be term limits, almost like a president, but maybe 3 to 4 times longer. You know, where you get like a 28-year run. You know, doesn't matter what age you come in, that's your limit. You know, because in 28 years, you go through 4 or 5 different presidents. You know, different structures of power. You can familiarize yourself with the system, but I think, you know, the problem with I wish we had a Mitch McConnell in independents or progressives. Like, I mean, he would be a godsend if the Democrats had somebody with the moxie that Mitch McConnell has. Like, dude, he does not give an F, and he can whip his congressional base right behind every time. Nobody ever falls in
effective,
line.
but it's not very democratic. Yeah, and so maybe if we had somebody like that on our side, it would be extremely effective in combating the other side. But it's not a very democratic way to do things.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I've lost it with Democrats and Republicans. I have little patience for any of them anymore.
Completely useless.
And I meant democratic with a small d, not with
as in like disclosure with a small d.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. But I'm an optimist, you guys. Like, again, like I always come back to this idea that the entire inspiration for the Singularity Lab was to take a look at breaking science, breaking technology, really look at human evolution up to this point, where it's headed, and think about what are the ethics involved here? Who's writing the programming for the AI of the future? Who's writing the policies that are going to bring us into this new world that we're heading towards? And, you know, I really appreciate the fact that you're all here willing to chop it up with us. Everybody here on the panel right now, everybody who's in the chat, y'all have been incredible in really, you know, giving us the platform to start having these conversations and having them in a bigger way and taking partisan politics out of it. You know, that's one of the things that Lou and I love so much about the UAP discussion, is that whether you're on the right or you're on the left, you're interested in making change. And I think that, you know, this idea of, I don't know, like the bipartisan politics has gotten so stale and so incestuous at this point that I really can't identify with either.
Right. Well, I can tell you neither one of them identify with you.
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
That's for damn sure. They do not identify. They only identify with their pocketbooks.
Yeah,
that's
long
what they
past
identify
time
with.
That we changed our voting system to some kind of ranked system or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did New York actually just recently in their last gubernatorial election installed ranked choice voting? Ranked choice voting is a fantastic idea because it allows people to vote. You know, you get your first choice, you get your second choice, you get your third choice, and it's not the idea that you're going to be throwing away your vote if you vote for somebody who is not, you know, on the top of the ticket. It's great.
But it also it's a great way to determine what your base wants. You know, like, because if you get say Bernie Sanders that wins, and I'm just using this as an example, but let's say Donald Trump comes in second, and Andrew Yang third and Elizabeth Warren fourth, right? That, well, clearly healthcare is an issue for people. Clearly, these things are issues for people, but then again, so is border safety. So is, gun rights or whatever that one represents, and at least now the person who takes office can start to compromise on these things, and start to understand, okay, well, clearly this is not a minority of our country that thinks this, and we're going to have to come up with a solution that satisfies them. So that way we can move forward.
I don't think they want to move forward. I think they like where they're at. I think they like having all the power and all the money. And
well, I think the current regime, sure, absolutely. But I think as these dinosaurs start to die out and as they start to retire, I mean, Mitch McConnell, I've read recently, he's thinking about retiring. He's getting there, like where he doesn't want to do this anymore. And as soon as the Republicans lose him, it's going to be hard to replace someone like that. It's going to take a while. But and it'd be interesting to see what happens or what changes in that party when someone like that steps down. But it's going to be interesting, man. This next, especially with computing and the way countries control our elections.
Dude, that's the thing. Like
silly.
AI technology, quantum computing, brain computer interfaces, all of these things are coming flying at us faster than we could possibly imagine. So the fact that we've got this fantastic space here at the Singularity Lab to have these conversations week in and week out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we appreciate you being here with us. If you want to follow us 5 nights a week, make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, and follow us over on the Unidentified Celebrity View so you can be with us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We've got the Big Phone Home 2 coming up. I'm super excited. It is Labor Day weekend. We're going to be going for 24 hours of content. Actually, maybe a little more now. We're going to be going live Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We've got an extraordinary bill for you guys. We got a great list of names. We got Sean Ross, Jamarl Thomas, Danny Sheehan. We got Lou Elizondo, John Greenwald, Dave Partridge, Graham Rendell, Zignal, Moskowitz. We've got Jay Malibu, Artemis, Lynn Walden, Caleb Moriarty, UFO Garage. I mean, it's going to be wild, you guys.
It's going to be an awesome show.
Wild.
It's going to be an awesome show.
You
it's
people
gonna be
are
awesome
crazy.
I think you're right, Aaron. I think you're right.
That's all right.
We'll see what
That's
happens.
All right. We're crazy.
I
We
want
know
tickets to the
we're
mosh pit.
crazy. We know we're crazy, and we're good with it. I'm good with it.
Celebrated. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you follow the dashing Daniel Miller. Daniel, where can folks find you if they want to chat offline?
Right here on Twitter, guys. Just hop me a DM. Follow me. We'll chat. It'll be great.
Hey, Daniel,
Love it.
real quick before you go,
Yeah.
you said something in the private chat about Lou didn't say that about the bus down.
Oh yeah, David Marcel. I saw him on the chat in the regular comments. He said that above. He said, "Yeah, I just confirmed with Lou that he did not say that. There's something of that effect. It's somewhere up there."
Wait, what?
Here it is.
Oh, but
FYI, Michael,
we were-
Lou Elizondo never said that thing about knowing who pilots certain UAPs.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
That was my bad. I heard that, and I guess it was an offline rumor I heard from another person's mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hearsay situation where I heard somebody say that he said it.
Yes, as
yeah,
did
those
I.
rumors will get going.
That sentence is
That's what
ufology in a
Twitter-
nutshell.
And it's somebody who would have known if he had said it, but it could have been false. Yes.
Yes,
For sure. Probably was. Anyway. All right, Daniel. We'll see you soon, buddy.
Thank
Until
you,
next
brother.
time.
Peace.
Aaron Disario, thank you so much for joining us today. Kristin and I were chatting the other night. We were having a couple of cocktails, and she's like, "You know who I like? I like that Aaron guy." She's like, "I feel like I can trust him. He's just got one of those trustworthy presences." So, Aaron, you are extremely appreciated and loved here at the Singularity Lab. From all of us,
So
we appreciate
grab all
you.
of your $100 bills and put them into an envelope, and you want to mail that to me at my new address.
Your new address.
You said
Yeah.
you trusted me, right?
I'll
He's trying to get you thrown back.
I'll send it.
So you're gonna invest our money, and you're gonna triple our profits.
I'll
We
triple your
appreciate
profits
that.
in a week.
Thank you. That's great.
It's interesting with a hat like that. You're talking about mailing things.
What can Brown do for you?
What can Brown do for you? Brown Disario.
Aaron, if people want to
you
follow
can find
you,
me on Twitter My last name at Disario.
Okay. Your last name at Disario. Okay, got it.
Well, it's my handle is at Disario, which is my last name.
Okay, maybe you could put that in, in the thing next time, like everyone else.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Except for Luis.
No, yeah, I don't do it.
Sorry. All right, hey Aaron, we love you, man. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
Have fun setting up that house, buddy.
Thank you.
And congrats again.
Later. Killer show today. We couldn't do it without you all. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you hadn't hit that subscribe button yet, or the bell, there it is. Do so now, so you can take your destiny into your own hands and ensure that you know whenever we go live. Sometimes we go live at different times. Sometimes we have guests from the UK and we go live a little earlier during the day. You want to know about it, make sure you hit that bell and come see us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys. Mo, Red Wing, Beartooth, love that. Case for Infinity. I think that's Mo Ublick.
Mo Ublick, yep.
Mo Ublick, I think. Swink McLeod, appreciate it, guys. Tim F, great to see you. Matthew Wright, you guys all freaking rock, and we appreciate you being here.
Killer Super Chat. And don't forget, you guys, that every show is available on Spotify and iTunes. It's pretty much just not right after the show's over here, but it gets up pretty quickly. Yes,
absolutely. Our cat is just meowing. Our dogs were barking. The dinging's happening. Like, this was the most chaotic show today because of all the animals. There's that annoying cat. Thank you, Night Gazer. This show keeps getting better and better. We appreciate it. AL, y'all are beautiful. You're beautiful. Thank you so much.
For a second, I thought you called your cat Night Gazer. I'm like, wow.
Actually, her name's Professor McGonagall.
Oh, Jesus. Professor McGonagall.
We have children.
Yes, we have children. That's why.
That's fair.
Kristin's a huge. She's read like the Harry Potter series like 10 times.
I haven't read it 10 times, but that's
and as Lou was saying, the Singularity Lab and UCR are on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts. So make sure you go check us out. You can find us there. Yeah, this show will be up in the next couple hours on
we usually got it. I usually get mine up the same night. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, you guys. Again, if you have any questions about the big phone home, don't hesitate. Ask away. We always answer those questions. Check out the www.thebigphonehome.com. Or I don't think you need to put the W. Just put thebigphonehome.com and you'll find it. Yeah, I think that's it, right, Michael?
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.